Hello, everybody, and welcome to our demonstration today of Salesforce to MySQL. My name is Christian, and I work in the CRM integration team here at Scarefree, with my main focus being on digitalization and automation. Today, I'd like to guide you through a process where we sync data from Salesforce to a database, in this case, a MySQL database, with Mulesoft in the middle of them. The main focus here will be on the Mulesoft to database connection because the Salesforce to Mulesoft connection we already covered in another video, which is referenced below this one if you want to watch this before. Okay, let's jump right into what we are going to do today. This is our little use case. So we have Salesforce, then in the middle Mulesoft, and then data is getting sent to a database. In this case, I already told you, MySQL. Okay, we see at the bottom left of our screen the Salesforce field names we will use, and on the right side, the corresponding fields in the database. As a use case, you could imagine that we have CRM data, so all our account data for our customers in Salesforce, and then we have an ordering process or some other operational processes in the MySQL database. And any change or any new customer that comes in has to be synced to this database. So we send to the right address, the billings, and of course the shippings as well, and other fields, of course. But for this simple example, we use the billing address. Let's see how we are going to do this. So in the first step, we will just use the Salesforce output. So we will create something in Salesforce and then see how the output will look in Mulesoft. And then from this, we can configure our Mulesoft in the second step to use the select statement as the insert statement, of course. And in the third step, we will test this whole thing. So we will again create an account in Salesforce and then see if the sending of data is done or not to our MySQL database. All right, let's jump right into Salesforce here to just see how this will look. So we are in our Salesforce environment and we will go for a new example account, one in this case. We have a billing street, let's say example street, because this is an example. And then our billing code is something random. For the city, I take Hanover because we are based in Hanover with our company, and the billing country is Germany. All right, let's save this, but we're not interested in anything that happens in Salesforce, but we'll just jump into Anypoint Studio right now. So as you can see on my screen, we are in the Mulesoft environment. You can see that this is already configured. This was configured in our last video. And when we look into the console now, you will see the created account here. So we will have data. So what we are looking here is the payload that comes in. So in the payload, there's some data. And then in the data, there's more payload, or Salesforce says it's payload. And in this payload, you will see the billing address, which we are interested today, and the name. So these names, so the name, the billing address, the street, the postal code, the country, and the city, these are all variables we are very interested today, as well as the record IDs down here, because this will be our identifier in our database, so that in a later point in time, we can go back and look for this ID. So if anything changes on the account, we can look up this ID and see if it's already in the system or not, and then go from there. But for today, as a simple example, we just want to create an insert. So I already put it in here, but so let's see, we want the database. And in the database, there are a lot of things you can do, but we want to insert something today. So we drag and drop the insert. After that, we have to configure the connector. So the information is getting to the right database, of course. Here are some possibilities. You can use Oracle, Microsoft SQL, but we will use MySQL connection today. As for the required libraries, we just use the one that is already filled in. As for this part, we will need some placeholders here because I already configured the the credentials in our config file you see here on the left of my screen. If you want to know how this is working, then please also watch our last video where I do this with Salesforce, and we also explain how this config is working. But when you configure the config correctly, you can go for the $sign and then curly brackets, then the name you're using in your credential file. So I use MySQL as an identifier for the MySQL information, and then .host for my host, of course. Let's do the same for the port and the username. So this, of course, will be port, and this will be the username we use. We also do this for the password, and we do this for the database. Okay, let's see and test this connection. If everything works, so the test connection is successful. This is really good. So we can go on and dig deeper into what we are doing today. So we want some SQL query, of course, because what we are going to do is an insert. So we say insert into, then the information we need. So we will put our information in account underscore billing. This is the table I pre-configured. And in this table, as was shown in our slideshow before, we have some values, or not values, but some fields we want to check in. So the Salesforce ID, the company name, billing street, etc., etc. This is all going in here. And then, of course, has to be filled with some values. For these values, we will use some placeholders for now. So placeholders or variables can be inserted dynamically. So I will just put them in. So we will have the Salesforce ID is corresponding to the Salesforce ID here, name, company name, street, billing street, city, etc., etc. This is how this is done. How does the system know what information goes into Salesforce ID and name and street? This is where the input parameters down here come in. So there are two modes, literal mode and expression mode. We will switch to the expression mode. And then we will put in our identifiers. So Salesforce ID we used at the top. So in the query, we'll use Salesforce ID. So down here, you have to say, okay, Salesforce ID corresponds to what information that we already know. What information do we already know? We know the information on the payload. So we know the payload. As I told you before, as you can see in the console, we have the payload, then data, payload, and then the billing address. And in the billing address, we go for street, postal code, whatever. We also go for data, payload, and then the change event header here, because under the change event header, there's also the record ID we're looking for. All right, let's jump back into here. So as I told you, payload.data.payload again, and then we use the change event header. And then we saw record IDs. And because it's a list, we will only use, because we know there's one in there we want to insert, so we insert the first that is in there. All right. For the rest of them, it will go as I showed you here. So I will just copy and paste them. It will go for the same scheme. So country, of course. Yeah, the name, payload data, payload.name. And for the billing address, it will be billing address and then wherever this goes. All right, now we have to redeploy this application because the application in the background is running the whole time. So what we are going to do now is just redeploy this and then see if this works out as we intend to. So this will just we can also show you. So this information came in. Now we're waiting for the redeploy. Once it's redeployed, we can jump into Salesforce. Then in Salesforce, we create another account and then go back here to see if the insert was successful or not. We're just having to wait a little bit for this to redeploy. So now it's redeployed. So everything is successful. We can jump back into Salesforce, as I said. Not go for new example account 1, of course. But this time we are going for example account 2. The billing street this time will be the same, but in German. So Musterstraße means example street. Let's say 2. For the zip postal code, we need nothing fancy, and then we still based in Hanover, still have the billing country of Germany. Okay, let's save this. We're not interested in Salesforce today, but we're interested in what comes out in the end. And then I can just show you. So, because this was here before, and now we see what comes in from Salesforce. So again, all this information on billing address that came before. And as you see, there's no errors down here. So everything worked out fine. It's in the database now. You could now, the next steps would be to just maybe use a select to get this information again or update this information. But for this is just what we're going to do today. I thank you guys for watching. Hope you have a great day and see you guys for our next video.